On this episode, we're going to run down all the basic weapons in the trading post and black market and look at what they do and what they're good for.
Dome Runners TV, your guide to the Underhive and beyond.
Hey there, scabby scummers and gangers, Crimson Oracle here with another episode of Dome Runners TV, another intro episode where we are going to talk about the basics of Necromunda, and today we are going to be focusing on basic weapons, the most basic of the basic. This is going to be an overview of all of your options for basic weapons, and we're going to talk about all the different ammo types and everything available to them and what you can do with them. So stay tuned and we'll roll right into it.
If you like the show, like and subscribe, and don't forget to check us out on Patreon. For $2 a month you can help support the show.
Let's start with the Humble Autogun. At 15 credits for the standard model at common rarity, you get a strength 3, damage 1, rapid fire 1 gun with an 8-inch short range and 25-inch long range. It has +1 to hit at close range and an ammo roll of 4 up. You can also get a 5 credit discount for a reclaimed one that has a 5 up ammo roll instead. As a sort of default gun, the autogun sets the standard other basic weapons are compared to. The potential for scoring multiple hits makes it a great weapon for using weight of fire to get through your opponent's defenses. With no AP and damage 1, it isn't especially good against armored opponents, but focusing a few autoguns ups the odds of one getting through. They are also, of course, good for pinning opponents, slowing their advance. A solid mid-range weapon, especially if you play on boards with a lot of terrain coverage and sight lines that rarely exceed 24 inches. Of course, because they're the same cost, same max range, and same strength, the autogun is most often compared to the lasgun. At the same 15 credit price and common rarity for strength 3 and damage 1, the lasgun trades the rapid fire trait for a significantly longer close range of 18 inches and a more reliable 2-up ammo roll and the plentiful trait. Put simply, the autogun is focused on maximizing potential damage output, while the lasgun is focused on maximizing reliability. The lasgun is even better for pinning your opponent, as it will be in close range more often. While the autogun's 4-up ammo roll isn't terrible, running out of ammo is barely an afterthought to the lasgun. If you do manage to roll a 1, you simply need to take a reroll action and you will automatically be shooting again, rather than the autogun's 50% chance of success. Some gangs default to having las or slug weapons, and for them I usually stick to the house weapons. They are, after all, the most thematic. In some cases, Asher for lasguns and Dulac for autoguns, there's a major discount on one over the other, which tends to make choosing the more expensive of the two purely a modeling or flavor choice. After all, basic guns aren't doing that much on their own, so saving credits to invest in your big guns seems like a sensible option. But for those who can choose either, it is not obvious which choice is better. It comes down to whether you want the reliability of hitting once more often or the random draw of sometimes hitting 3 times, but overall hitting less often. Personally, I tend to give las the edge, but that's because my personal playstyle favors the board control of pinning opponents early and allows me to get into position to strike with my close combat elements. Your mileage may vary because your playstyle may vary. Moving on, we have 3 different types of shotgun: sawn-off shotguns, and combat shotguns. Sawn-offs cost 15 credits and are common rarity and come with just scatter ammo. With only a 8-inch long range and 4-inch short range, this basic weapon is outranged by most pistols, but up close it gets +2 to hit, and with the scatter shot trait, every hit causes D6 wound rolls. This weapon is extremely situational, but it can be great on fast fighters with weak ballistic skills such as wreckers. They can purchase solid ammo for 5 credits, which is a common upgrade. This ups the gun to strength 4, damage 2 at the expense of changing out the +2 to hit at close range for -2 to hit at long range. I don't really rate this upgrade very highly because it offers so little utility, but it is a relatively cheap way to get a higher strength and damage if you happen to have a fast model. I'm just not sure I like the -2 at further than 4 inches. It's pretty punishing and makes the gun very difficult to use. Coming in at 30 credits, we have the standard shotgun, which is equipped with both scatter and solid ammo by default. The scatter ammo is 4-inch close range and 8-inch long range, much like the sawn-off, and the strength is 2 instead of 3, while still being damage 1 and no AP. It still has the scattershot rule, which makes it occasionally useful, but it is definitely not as good at close range as the sawn-off. The gun makes up for this issue with its solid shot, which has a close range of 8 inches and a long range of 12 inches with +1 to hit at close range instead of the sawn-off's -2 at long range, so it's both longer range and more accurate. It's strength 4 and damage 2 and has knockback, making it a very effective tool for close-up fights. If your intention is to get in close, the sawn-off has the edge as it's both cheaper and slightly stronger. If you want someone who is scary in middle ranges, that 12-inch range band, the shotgun is superior. The shotgun also has some additional ammo types. There's the Executioner round, which is 20 credits. This gives an unusual +1 to hit if it's at long range of 16 inches, but -1 at short range of 4 inches or less. This isn't that big of a deal, however, as your shotgun has multiple ammo types, and you can switch out to one that is not -1 to hit when you take your close-up shots. The round is strength 4 with AP -2, damage 2 at the expense of a 6-up ammo roll. It has the knockback trait and limited, which means that when you run out of ammo with it, you must repurchase it to take it again. This is not a minor expense since the 20 credits is significant, but it's an extremely potent shot that outclasses even the bolt gun in damage, so it is useful in situations where you're dealing with tougher enemies that have a lot of wounds, plus it gives your shotgun that little bit of extra range. At Rarity 9, it's not something that you are necessarily going to have access to at the start, however. There's also Inferno ammo, which costs 15 credits at Rarity 8, and again extends the shotgun's long range out to 16 inches with a short range of 4 inches. It gives the shotgun +1 at close range and again makes it strength 4, damage 2, but instead of increasing the AP, it gives the weapon the blaze trait, which has a 50-50 chance of catching your opponent on fire. Flame weapons are always useful because even if they don't hurt your opponent, they can seriously take them out of the game for multiple turns as they try to put themselves out. It's once again limited, which does mean that it's a somewhat pricey upgrade because you will eventually run out due to a 6-up ammo roll. At 70 credits in Rarity 7, the combat shotgun is one of the most expensive basic weapons around. In the game, it has a status it earns with some excellent ammunition. It comes with 2 ammo types, Salvo and Shredder. Salvo has a short range of 4 and long range of 12, with +1 to hit at close range at strength 4 with damage 2 and no AP. Crucially, it gets the rapid fire rule, meaning you can hit your opponent up to 3 times with it. It also gets knockback and has an ammo roll 4 up. Shredder, meanwhile, is a template shot, which is strength 2, damage 1, with an ammo roll of 4 up, but it gets the scattershot rule, meaning any hit fighter under the template takes D6 damage rolls. This is a very nifty tool for dealing with clumped up opponents, and makes the combat shotgun worth its expensive price tag. There's also an alternate ammo type Firestorm, which at 30 credits on top of an expensive base weapon is not cheap, but it's essentially an alternative Shredder ammo. The template is strength 5 and AP -1 with damage 1. It's saddled with a 6-up ammo roll and is limited, but it has the blaze trait, which makes it pretty nifty. It's a lot to gamble on a limited ammo item, and I've never personally taken it, but it definitely packs a punch. Overall, a choice you are primarily going to go for against tougher opponents, and particularly ones who run a lot of fighters closer together. Next up, we have the most iconic weapon in Warhammer 40k, the bolt gun. At 50 credits in Rarity 8, the bolt gun is on the upper end of basic weapons. It has a long range of 24 and a short of 12, and +1 to hit at short range. It's strength 4 and damage 2 at AP -1, with a 6-up ammo roll and rapid fire. The bolt gun is an absolute character-deleting machine. Getting multiple hits is incredibly punishing, assuming you don't whiff your wound rolls, and it can be a bit overkill pointing one at normal gangers. The bolt gun is good enough that generally for non-enforcer gangs, I recommend using them sparingly, as they can be a bit fun-killing for other players if you take too many. They're also pretty expensive, so investing too heavily in them can actually hold your gang back. A great gun, but it doesn't need to be spammed. Finally, we have the Humble Throwing Knife. At 10 credits and common rarity, it's very affordable, but limited to long range of 4 times strength and short range of 2 times strength. It's -1 to hit at long range, and strength and damage nil, and AP -1. And since it doesn't have a strength value and has the toxin rule, it is also silent and scarce. Because of silent, these can be very useful in sentry missions, but they're relatively short range, and their use of a weapon slot other weapons compete for does hurt them a bit. But as alternative war gear for characters with tools of the trade, they could potentially be brought in when silence is needed. The AP-1 combined with Toxin does make them surprisingly effective weapons when you do land one. Overall, these are one of the more situational basic weapon choices. We also have some alternative ammo options. For the las gun, we have the Hot Shot Pack, which is technically a weapon accessory, not ammo, but it gives you a different profile. It ups the weapon strength to 4 and AP to -1, but it drops your ammo roll to a 4-up and removes Plentiful. The increase in strength and AP are well worth it in my opinion, as the hit to reliability is just not that big of a deal. But at 20 credits, I tend to take this as more of a later game upgrade, except for on Escher, whose 5 credit las guns are begging to be made into light bolt guns for only 20 more credits. The Book of Peril gives us some additional ammo types for use in basic weapons. Plant Buster rounds for autoguns or shells for shotguns run 15 credits in Rarity 9 and are a fairly niche item. They gain the Defoliate trait, which causes the gun to do D3 wounds to carnivorous plants and cause Brain Leaf zombies to automatically lose a wound. They also have Scarce, which means an ammo check will prevent your gun from being reloaded. This is something you'll really only take if your gang is delving into hive forests with hostile plant life that is being encountered. If you do go into these environments, plant busters are a very good idea. Brain leaf zombies are hard to put down, and the plants can be a real nightmare too. Next, there are phosphor rounds for the autogun or shells for the shotgun, which are 10 credits in Rarity 8. They gain the Flare trait as well as Scarce. Flare gives a fighter hit by the weapon the Revealed condition, which is pretty nifty in pitch black and limited visibility Ash Waste games. Less niche than Plant Busters, this is one you may find yourself picking up to give your basic fighters a bit more utility in hostile environments. Having them on hand doesn't hurt, as they don't use the slot anyway. Next, there are Rad rounds and shells at 20 credits and Rarity 9, 25 for the shotgun. It buys you the Rad phase rule as well as Scarce. This gives you a 50-50 shot to do a flesh wound if you hit. This is a great way to keep your basic fighters useful later in the game. While somewhat expensive, the flesh wounds these shots do are more likely than your shot wounding in many cases, and each flesh wound makes your opponent easier to wound later. A solid mid to late campaign upgrade. I would definitely consider these. For the bolt gun, we get the alternate ammo Gunk Bolts, which cost 15 credits and are common. They change out the +1 to hit at close range from -1 at long range and reduce the weapon to no AP and damage 1, but have a 5-up ammo roll over the bolter's stock 6-up. They also have the Gunk trait, which causes -1 to movement, and the fighter to gain no bonus distance when charging and to lose 1 initiative, plus causes them to become blazed on a 2-up rather than 4-up. It also isn't rapid fire. These are mostly a thematic choice. Paying an extra 15 credits for a less damaging but disabling shot is a bit of an odd choice. Still, they're very thematic as they represent homemade makeshift ammo, the sort that you're likely to encounter in the Underhive. There are also some ammo choices in the Book of Judgment that enhance your basic weapons, but some might also get your gang outlawed. For the autogun, we have 2 options. Static rounds are 10 credits and illegal 9. They're identical to normal autogun rounds, but have the Shieldbreaker, Shock, and Limited traits added. Shieldbreaker causes the weapon to ignore the Assault Shield and Energy Shield traits, and forces models equipped with field armor to roll 2 dice and pick the lowest for their field armor save. Shock causes automatic wounds on hit rolls of 6, which can absolutely devastate when you roll 3 hits on your ammo die. Limited does mean that the more you use them, the more likely you need to rebuy them. I really like these. The upgrade is inexpensive, it can be applied to reclaimed autoguns, and it makes the gun more likely to wound. Plus, it's really annoying for your friends who are using shields. Warp rounds are 15 credits and illegal 10. They are standard autogun rounds with the cursed and single shot rules. Cursed causes a model hit by the weapon to pass a willpower test or become insane. Single shot means just that. You can fire it once per game, then it's gone. This one is a lot of fun due to the insanity condition being kind of hilarious, but it's probably not one you're going to use very often if you don't want to risk becoming outlawed. If you're already an outlaw, these can be a little fun to throw in. The willpower test does mean that better characters will tend to be more resistant to these, so it might be a good idea to target your single shot at their weaker fighters in hopes of it going off successfully. That said, single shot does trigger an out of ammo weapon, so you're potentially sacrificing future shooting to get this one off. It is a fun and thematic option. For bolters and shotguns, there are a few ammo types as well. Gas shells are available to both bolt and shotgun weapons for 25 credits and are rarity 11. On the bolt gun, it drops damage to 1 and adds a 3-inch blast rule in place of rapid fire, while also granting the gas trait, limited and single shot. For shotguns of all types, it has a 4-inch short range at +1 to hit, and for sawn off, the max range is 8 inches, while for the others, it is 18 inches. For the sawn off, the weapon is strength 3, while it's strength 4 on the other two, and similarly has 3-inch blast, gas, limited, and single shot. Now, the blast rule does mean that these shots can scatter, and gas makes the strength and damage irrelevant, because gas does not cause a wound roll. That said, the 3-inch gas template can mess someone's day up. Unfortunately, being both single shot and limited means that as soon as you use one of these, they are gone for good. That's a heavy downside to an expensive weapon, but the effect on the battlefield is usually at a minimum hilarious. At best, these are situational. Next, we have shatter shells. At 15 credits and rarity 9, these are a bit more reasonable of a buy than the gas shells. For the bolt gun, it changes strength to 3 and damage to 1, and gives the gun a 3-inch blast and limited rules in place of rapid fire. For sawn-offs, they are also short range 4-inch and long range 8-inch, and similarly gain 3-inch blast and limited, with the other two shotguns having an 18-inch long range instead. Having the option to turn your gun into a frag grenade launcher is fun, but most of the guns it works with are pretty pricey, so the opportunity cost of using this ammo versus the one you already paid for is definitely an argument against it. Still, having this up your sleeve can surprise an opponent who isn't spacing out their fighters properly. The last of our alternative ammunitions, we have the focusing crystal for the lasgun, which is 30 credits and rarity 10. It gives the standard lasgun profile -2 AP at the expense of reducing ammo to 3 up and replacing plentiful with unstable. Unstable, of course, means a failed ammo check would take this fighter out of action on a 4 up. This is an interesting one because it, of course, competes with Hot Shot, and it makes the gun less reliable, but the focusing crystal just doesn't boost the strength enough and costs more. It does boost the armor piercing. I find it hard to justify the crystal compared to Hot Shot, but if your opponent's fighters are largely toughness 3 or toughness 5 and they're sporting good armor, it might have the edge for you. The Book of Judgment also has some additional basic weapons, harder to get than the earlier ones, and some of them outlawed. There's the arc rifle, which at 100 credits and rarity 13 is a tough gun to run down, owing to its status as a Scutari weapon. Necromunda, after all, is not a Forge World. With a short range of 9 inches and a long range of 24 inches, the arc rifle has +2 to hit at short range and -1 to hit at long. Strength 5 with no AP and damage 1, the weapon has a 6-up ammo roll as well as the blaze, rapid fire, and shock rules. This is an interesting weapon, absolutely brutal in close quarters. It wounds most opponents on a 3-up, and thanks to shock, a 6 to wound is an auto wound. Rapid fire makes it even better, and blaze is just the cherry on top. This is a fantastic gun if you can get your hands on one, but definitely give it to someone with a good ballistic skill in case you need to use it at longer range. There is the Stake Crossbow at 60 credits and rarity 11. It's a classic witch hunting weapon. It has a short range of 5 inches and a long range of 15 inches. It has +1 to hit at short range. Its strength 3, has no AP, 1 damage, and a 4-up ammo roll. It has the silent trait and the hexagrammatic rule. Hexagrammatic makes weapons ignore saves from psychic powers and inflict double damage against psychers. This is one that you'll only find yourself taking if you're frequently going up against psychers, making it fairly niche, but considering the powers available to Venator, Outcast, Genestealer Cult, Delac, and Chaos Gangs, I wouldn't count this one out completely. Still, a bolt gun costs a little bit less, and it, while it doesn't bypass psychic armor, does have 2 damage against everyone, and has higher strength. Still, it's iconic, and I'm glad there are rules for this weapon in the game. Next, we have the Kroot Long Rifle, a 30 credit rarity 10 weapon, which unusually has both a ranged and close combat profile. At range, the weapon has 12-inch short range and 24-inch long range, and +1 to hit at short range. It is strength 4 with no AP and damage 1. It has the knockback and plentiful rules. In close combat, it is a versatile weapon with 2-inch long range and increases the user's strength by 1, and has damage of 1 with a disarm trait. For the credits, the Krut long rifle is amazing. A more reliable and harder hitting autogun with a pole arm attached. This thing is a great choice. I really can't sing its praises enough. No notes. The Rakgol Razor Gun is a 60 credit illegality 11 weapon. It has a short range of 6 inches and long range of 20 inches with -1 to hit at long range. It has strength 3, AP -2, damage 1, and 6 up ammo, and the rapid fire 2 trait as well as toxin. A rapid fire 2 weapon with toxin is fantastic in and of itself, as each successful hit is going to potentially lead to an injury roll. Throw in the AP -2, and this is an incredible gun, only really held back by its range bands. On a fighter with a good ballistic skill, it's like a heavy needle gun, but in the basic slot. It's hard to get your hands on, but a great weapon for any gang, particularly House Escher. Keep in mind that you don't need to always roll 2 rapid fire dice. You can choose to roll 1 if you're worried about running out of ammo. The Sling Gun is 55 credits and rarity 11. It has a short range of 6 inches and long range of 12 inches with +2 to hit at short range, strength 4, AP -2, and damage 1 with a 5 up ammo roll. It has the rapid fire 1 and scarce traits. Clocking in at the same price as a bolt gun and harder to come by, the Sling Gun is an interesting alternative. Your range is half as long, but up very close it has a better hit modifier. It has better AP, but it does half as much damage. It's twice as likely to pass an ammo roll, but if you don't make it, the gun runs out of ammo for the rest of the game. Overall, I think the Bolter is a better gun. I think it's odd that the Sling Gun is such short range. As the Shuriken rifle, it's clearly intended to be, generally has a longer range, but I do think that the Sling Gun is interesting. In close-up battles against single wound enemies with armor, it tends to have the edge, but mostly it's a different flavor of the same class of weapon, giving you more variety and a little Xenos drip to go with it. And the last of our basic weapons, we have the Warp Storm Bolter. 60 credits and illegality 10, and guess what? It's basically a standard bolt gun with the cursed and scarce rules. If you recall, cursed causes opponents to take a willpower check if hit, and if failed, become insane. This is a significantly better option than the warp rounds for the autogun, which due to single shot were only usable once per game. This gun can drive your opponent's entire gang insane. The only real downsides are the chance that failing an ammo roll will make your gun go out for the rest of the game, and it might get your gang outlawed, which makes it a great upgrade for gangs that are already outlawed. Definitely recommend this one. And that about covers it, the basic weapons. I'll soon tackle other categories of gear, and then we'll start getting into gang-specific choices. I want to thank my patrons. As always, you guys help to keep this show on the air. I could not do this without your help. And of course, you too can become a patron for as little as $2 a month. Go to patreon.com/domerunners and you can get the info there. And finally, of course, check out the podcast. You can find me on Buzzsprout, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Just look for the Dome Runners. And of course, as always, everybody stay safe and don't forget to change your paint water.